Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Mango Oblivion Plays, and today we're going to be going over the Modern Age live stream that Firaxis gave for Civilization VII. The live stream came out on the 17th and is still available on their YouTube channel, so if you want to watch the entire 2-ish hour stream in total on your own, you absolutely can do that. It is available for you to see, but if you're just looking for kind of a quick summary of the important pieces of that live stream that was revealed, this is where you want to be. So let's begin. First of all, they did highlight 2 new leaders for the game that are going to be in at launch. The first one is one that has been kind of teased since the very beginning of these live streams, which is Benjamin Franklin. He is associated with the United States, but like they've mentioned, this game, you don't have to use a leader with the specific country that they are associated with, so you can play Benjamin Franklin with anybody. But he is more science and diplomatic based. He gets science bonuses from specific interactions with other civs. So basically like those interactions where you like boost each other's culture or you increase trade, Benjamin Franklin gets boosts to that. He also gets more science from production buildings. So buildings that increase your production level also give science. Apparently the development team during the live stream said that they had to nerf him several times over development because he was too good. So it's possible at launch he will still be too good. Hopefully they have him balanced a little bit better. But it's possible that he will get patched in the future because his abilities are apparently very, very strong. Harriet Tubman is a second American leader that is going to be in the game. She is more espionage and military based. She gets bonuses to espionage in the game, so she basically she has to spend 50% less influence to do spy actions. And we'll go over the espionage system that they talked about in a bit, so don't worry, I'll explain what all that means. She also gets more war support in conflicts, so when her civilization goes to war, she's going to get more war support that she can put to really press on enemy leaders to make them not want to fight for as long. And then she also, all of her units get easier movement in tough terrains, so terrains that would normally stop your movement, that doesn't really affect Harriet Tubman's units, which is pretty interesting. So you'll be able to move your units a lot easier with Harriet Tubman, which is kind of an illusion. It alludes to her role as the leader of the Underground Railroad. So that's very cool. 2 very non-traditional leaders for the United States. Benjamin Franklin never actually serving as the president, right? But he was a chief diplomat for the United States, and he is actually one of the only people who signed the 4 major documents of the founding of the United States. And then Harriet Tubman, right, never held political office, but she is definitely a leader for her community and for our country. So very interesting choices they've made for leaders for the United States. Very excited to play as both of them. Obviously, that means they did introduce the United States as a civilization. There was kind of no doubt that this one would be in here, but it's the first officially revealed modern age civ. They have 2 units. I spelled amphibious wrong. They have a special military unit, which is the Marine. It is amphibious, so it basically gets to embark for free. It can be in the water or out of the water. It's got like a little duck boat it drives in, which is kind of fun. And then they have a civilian unit called the Prospector. The Prospector can leave American territory and then improve a resource out of the territory, and then that resource is added into your empire. So he's basically like he can basically like pick up tiles for you outside of your normal border expansion. United States is a civ that's going to rely on resource play. Every time you improve a resource, you get 100 gold on standard speed. So it's really kind of economically focused, I would say, in this Civ game, rather than the different focuses they've had in the past, where I feel like it's been more military based. So this should be interesting to see how that plays in to American gameplay in Civ 7. Moving on, we now know that there will be 31 civilizations at launch in the game. Here's a breakdown of all the ones we know about so far. In the antiquity, we've got Ascom, which is a West African civilization, Egypt, Greece, Han China, the Khmer, which is from the Vietnam area of the world, Moria, which is India, the Mayans, the Mississippians, which is southern United States, Persia, and then Rome. In the Exploration Age, we have the Abbasids, which is basically the Islamic Caliphate, the Chola, which is another civilization from India, Hawaii, the Inca, the Majapahit, which I believe is Indonesia, Ming China, Mongolia, the Normans, which you could basically say is like France/England, the Shawnee, the Songhai, and then Spain. And then in the modern era, we have several civs that have been introduced so far. The first one is the United States. According to the Civ Wiki, Buganda, which looks like it's an African civilization, is in the modern era. France will be in the modern era. Japan, Mexico, the Mughals, which is another Indian civ. King, or is it King? Qin? I don't know how to pronounce that word. China, the Siamese, and then potentially a couple other ones. I think I counted there. That's 29. So there's probably going to be 2 other modern civs that are going to be added in to kind of balance out the roster here, or potentially in somewhere else. But around 30, they said 31 civs will be in the game at launch. That being said, here are the leaders that are going to be available at launch. They said there will be 26 different leaders with 5 personas as well. We've got Amina, Ashoka the Conqueror, Ahsoka the religious guy, like the guru, Augustus, Caesar, Ben Franklin, Charlemagne, Confucius, Harriet Tubman, Hatshepsut, Himiko, Ibn Battuta, Isabella, Machiavelli, Napoleon the Emperor, Napoleon the Revolutionary, Pachacuti, Tecumseh, Trungtak, Xerxes the King, Xerxes the Archimenid, which is basically like a trader. So he's more economic based in that form. And then based on that, there's going to be quite a few more leaders not yet revealed, and 2 more personas, because we have a persona for Xerxes, one for Napoleon, and one for Ahsoka. Some modern era basics that I just kind of go over. The modern era is basically set from the Industrial Revolution to the World War era. So this game at launch is not going to be going all the way until modern day. It's going to end around the World War era. I think they've done that because in the future they're going to be adding a 4th age to the game that does extend all the way to the end. But then also it really limited, or it really set them in a time frame where they can work for that age. I think it just made sense naturally to go from like the beginning of the Industrial Revolution to really where we hit our stride with it, right there. And that way the next age can be like Cold War to the true modern era of now. Ideology has also been separated from governments in this game. Back in Civ 6, your government was fascism, democracy, or communism, and at least in the modern era. And those did not, that doesn't really sit true to form with how ideology and government form, right? You can have communist democracies, you can have fascist democracies. There's lots of different ways, there's different ways within these things, how these things work. So for example, the government might be called a centralized bureaucracy, but then your ideology would be fascist, communist, or democratic. So they've separated those things in this game. And the settlement limit in the modern era is 16 on standard speed. So you're going to have 16 settlements before you start running into penalties for that. The modern age legacy paths, much like the other 2 ages, are tied to the 4 different kind of tracks that they've had over the course of the game. The first being economic, then military, science, and culture. The economic legacy path for the modern era is called Railroad Tycoon. You need to find and improve new factory resources on the map and then connect those to your factories. When you do that, every turn that they are connected, you're going to gain points, and if you get 500 points, you'll complete that legacy path. Military-wise, you're going to want to take over cities and there are bonus points for cities with different ideologies than your own. So if you're a democratic ideology civ and you're fighting a fascist civ, so with a different ideology, and you take one of their cities, you're going to get more points towards this 20 total than if you just fought for a regular city. They did say that if in previous eras you had lost a city in a war and you reclaim it, that does count towards this bonus. So it's any city you take, not just new ones. Science, you have to complete flight projects. So basically you need to increase your science output and then complete like projects. So like discovering planes. Then the next one is like the first transatlantic flight, the first full navigation around the world, and then the first manned spacecraft. We'll create your legacy path for that one. And then culture-wise, you're going to want to be gathering artifacts from around the world with the new Explorer unit, and then you're going to put them in museums, and if you get 15 of those, you'll complete that one. So those are the 4 legacy paths as of right now, with only 2 months to go until the game is released. Now let's talk about actual victory conditions, because that's been a big question on everybody's mind for this new Civilization game. There are currently 5 victory conditions. So there's the science, economic, military, and cultural, but there's also a time victory as well, as there usually is in Civ games. And that basically means that you've gone all the way through the modern age, the age ends, and no one has accomplished a victory objective. If that happens, your progress on all the legacy paths throughout the entire game, so if you started all the way back in the Antiquity Age, all those points from the previous 2 ages plus this third one are added up, and whoever got the most legacy path points wins the game now. So that's how the time victory works. As for the other ones, each of the 4 legacy paths, like I said, completing that legacy path from the modern era does not win you the game. Instead, it opens the opportunity for you to complete a special project that will win you the game. So for instance, if you complete the economic legacy path, you get all those factory points, you get 500. That unlocks the ability for you to do the World Bank project. And if you complete the World Bank project, you win the game. In the military thing, if you do that, you can do Operation Ivy, which is the military operation to unlock thermonuclear weapons. So if you complete Operation Ivy, you win the game. In science, it is a rocket launch of sorts into not like an unmanned like visit to the moon, but it's something else. So there's a rocket launch that happens that gets you the science victory. And then the cultural victory is the World's Fair. So these 4 projects are basically our victory conditions in Civilization VII, with the time victory also there if we can't complete those before the game ends. They also talked about the new espionage system and how that's going to work in the game. The espionage system is now not based on individual units going to cities like that was in Civilization VI. It is now entirely based on the influence currency that they've been talking about in the diplomacy system. So basically in your diplomacy catalog, you're going to get new options as part of the espionage system in the modern era. And these ones are secret. So you can pick them and nobody will know you've picked them. Espionage acts, right, are secret, but there's a chance that they will be made public. So you'll see that at the beginning when you click on it, like if you want to steal a technology, it'll say there's a 50% chance of it going public. And then there's also a percentage chance of it working or not. There is a counter spy option, so you can spend influence to create counter spies to make sure that people aren't spying on you, and that will lower the chance that it will succeed, and it'll increase the chance that it'll be made public to you if someone is trying to do something to you. There's a set number of turns for these espionage actions to complete, which it'll say at the beginning. So it's like, I want to steal technology. This is going to take 10 turns. There is a 75% chance that it will happen, and there's a 50% chance that the people will know that it happened. So you're going to see all that information at the beginning when you're deciding to do that, when you're going to be deciding to spend your influence currency. There's some other options in there other than stealing technology. There's like a sabotage production one. I'm pretty sure I saw a recruit partisans option. I think there's only like 4 or 5 options that I saw when we were playing, or when they were playing in the live stream. So there could be more, there could be less, depending on when the game launches. but there's going to be several options for you here spy-wise. And you don't have to spend production on building a unit for it, which is kind of nice. It's just in this nice little diplomacy menu now. They also talked about how there will be a new ideological civic tree, much like there was. So earlier in the game, they talked about how each civ is going to be getting their own unique civic tree. In the modern era, there will also be a unique ideology civic tree. So once a player researches the political theory civic, there will be a new set of trees that unlock that will be called the ideology trees. There are 3 trees: democracy, communism, and fascism. And once you put any amount of effort into any one of these trees, that choice is permanent. So if you decide to go for that very first democracy one, once you click on it and you end your turn, you are on the democracy track. Communism and fascism are no longer on the table for you. They did not say there was a way to switch that as of yet. That might be something that changes in the future as they add that 4th era potentially. That's when you might see the ideology become switchable, and there might be narrative and things that happen because of that. But as of right now, in this era from the Industrial Revolution to the World Wars, you're stuck on that tree. So until there's an update with a new era after that, it doesn't look like you're going to be able to switch in base game, which is relatively historically accurate, I'd say. So that's actually good on them for going along and listening to their historians. Some other major things that are important in this game are railroads. Railroads are going to play a very major role in the modern age of Civilization VII, and there's going to be a new building that goes along with it, which is called the rail station. It's got to be built in settlements to connect them via railroads. So over the course of the game, you're going to have built all these settlements, and they're going to be connected via roads. If you want to upgrade those to roads, you're not going to have builders doing that anymore. Instead, what will happen is you'll build a rail station in one settlement and a rail station in another settlement, and then the connection between those 2 cities will be changed to railroads. Rail stations also take up a full tile. So most tiles, most districts that we've heard of so far in the game allow 2 buildings to be built in them. If you build a rail station in a district, it is the only thing you can build there. So it's taking up a square for you. Factory resources need to be transported over railroad connections to get to factories. I believe I heard them say that. I know railroads are important in that process. Let me look at my notes again real quickly here. Yes, you need rail stations to connect factories. So it is important to build railroads to connect your factories to the resources they need to score you points. Railroads can be used to also expedite troop and unit movement, and there's a 20 tile limit for that. So you can only move them 20 tiles or so. So if you have a really large empire that goes over 20 tiles, you're going to have to use a quick movement over the railroads maybe twice to get that far. It is like an instantaneous thing though. So you go to a tile near the rail station, and then you can click move via rail, and it will move to that place in one turn, which is very nice. Like I said, factories are tied to the economic victory path. You are going to need to build those, and you do need to connect them with railways. Having a factory in a settlement will improve your troop production in that city, which is very helpful. So if you're trying to build troops, having a factory there will make that much faster. Next, there are some new commander type units in the modern age. So in the first age, we had the army commander. In the second age, we had the navy commander. Now we've got the squadron commander. This is for planes and aircraft. So for instance, these commanders are the ones who have all of the promotions. Squadron commanders have like promotions that'll make it so you can paradrop troops or tanks from your planes, which is really cool. They also have other promotions for stuff like that. They also have the aircraft carrier unit, which is a naval unit that can hold planes. It's basically like a water squadron commander. So that's pretty cool. And then the aerodrome building is where planes are made, and it has its own promotion tree as well. So it is kind of like a squadron commander as well, even though it is a building. Speaking of air units, there are now 3 air units in Civilization VII. There are fighters and bombers, which we're used to, but now they are adding in a dive bombing unit. So a plane that can strafe the ground and it's particularly good at attacking ground units with planes. So before, bombers and fighters weren't particularly good at that. You couldn't have like a fighter attack like a tank or infantry. A dive bomber will be good at doing that, and it is suited for that role in the game. So there's now a new type of plane unit. Also, in the modern era, they split up naval units. It's the first time that there are light versus heavy units in the game. So, for instance, they explain the difference between like a destroyer and a battleship. One being faster with less production, but not as strong. The other one, way more production, way more intense, much stronger. So that also changes in the modern era. Those are all the big things that are happening in the live stream that took place just a couple days ago for the modern era. They did say that there are a lot of different developer diaries and game guides that are being released on the website and the YouTube channel over the next several weeks that are going to go more in depth on how all these different things work. So if you're on YouTube, you should check that stuff out as well to make sure you're up to date on everything going on in the game. Otherwise, this has been Mangoblivion Plays, and I cannot wait to be playing some Civilization VII with you in February. Until then, adios, players.